Hello, my name is Avery Tortora, a former intern at Asian Student Achievement, and I had the opportunity to interview Bao Nguyen. Bao Nguyen is a Vietnamese-American filmmaker known for projects such as Be Water, Live from New York, and Emmy-nominated The Greatest Night in Pop. His work also explores themes of identity and culture, and recently, Asian Student Achievement had the chance to sit down with him. So before your current career, what kind of inspired you to be part of the film industry, specifically as a director and a cinematographer?
Well, I didn't know I was going to be a filmmaker. I mean, I always loved filmmaking and visual storytelling, but for a long time I was planning to be a lawyer. Um, and it wasn't until the day that I was supposed to take my LSAT that I decided not to be a lawyer. But I remember just as a child always, sketching and drawing, and every opportunity I had to tell a story visually, I would try. I made my first short film when I was 9, and I always thought like films was like something that was a grand way to tell a story, and it was larger than life. And so I'm very fortunate now to be able to do that for a living.
How important is it for you to incorporate your culture and preserve it through your work?
I mean, for me, it's just an extension of my own identity without like having to explicitly sort
Right.
of like proclaim my identity. It's part of me, and not just
Hmm.
it's part of me as an Asian American. It's part of me as someone who lived in New York. It's part of me as a Vietnamese
Yeah.
American, as a person, sort of a culmination of a lot of different experiences. And so naturally, like the identity comes out for filmmakers and artists. You want to sort of draw a little bit from your experience, but also imbue a bit of yourself into everything you do.
Has being an Asian American in such a large industry hindered or affected in any way the opportunities you've been presented?
I guess yes and no. I think some of it's like my own um, undoing, because I think for the longest time I was just like, okay, I'm Asian American. I have this
Hmm.
role and responsibility to tell Asian American stories. I very much try to uphold that responsibility, but I think it also constrains you into like the type of stories that you can do, because I think for a long time, sort of like the majority culture, like we're like we can tell any story we want. Like there's
Hmm.
no limitations, and I
Right.
think many BIPOC filmmakers and artists put their own limitations on themselves. Like, oh, I'm only
Hmm.
allowed to tell stories in my own space. And I think just talking to other artists, they've taught me that coming in with again a sense of like humility and respect and reverence to the subject is what we need to approach these different projects. And so that's always like kind of been it's something that I've evolved from for sure. um, but I think within my own sort of revelation of that, there still needs to be sort of a more wider acceptance of that idea among the industry and among the people who sort of greenlight projects, that you can trust a person from another community to tell that story, as long as again they are inclusive to the voices of that community, and they're respectful. And so because I think it's almost a um, becomes cyclical, and that there haven't been a lot of opportunities for AAPI filmmakers and artists to kind of tell
Hmm.
stories outside of that realm. And so, unless they're giving those opportunities to do it, like we're kind of stuck in our own um, bubble in a way.
What advice can you give Asian American college students like myself interested in entering this industry? I know you kind of touched on this earlier, so any more general advice?
I think nowadays um, there's so many examples. I think of great Asian American artists doing their thing. People are just making work that's like really compelling, and um, not having to lean in on identity. I think
Mhm.
like we exist within our own identity by like creating things that speak again to our own experiences. So I'd like lean into
Mhm.
our experiences, and then from that, like it's it makes your work very personal. But
Hmm.
I think try to take that, like, again, personal things and expand it beyond, I think, just sort of like immigrant storylines. Like take it into
Yeah.
like science fiction and thriller and fantasy. Like I'm excited to see like a generation of filmmakers who aren't constrained by a lot of generational trauma, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
that my parents and a lot of my, you know, colleagues' parents have passed on. I mean, but also if you want to lean onto that trauma, please do. It's no problem. I just want filmmakers to kind of be limitless in their
Yeah.
thinking and their belief and confidence in their storytelling and artistry. So I'm excited for the next generation.
Thank you, Bao, for taking the time to meet with Asian Student Achievement.